What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Guiding Keys, the story of Kingdom Hearts, presented by the Unlockables podcast. As always, my name is Eric. I have been your host and your guide through the wonderful world of Kingdom Hearts and the wonderful mind of series creator and director Tetsuya Nomura. I'd like to thank you so much for tuning in wherever, whenever in time and space you may be located. It means a lot to me that you're willing to stop by and check out the show. Check out what is going on in the world of video games, or in the case of this mini-series, what is going on in the world of Kingdom Hearts. And I'm happy to say that we have finally arrived. This will be the final episode on Kingdom Hearts 3. In the last episode, we finished up the base game. We had the final confrontation with Xehanort and got some interesting revelations at the end of that game. Sora's fate seems to be up in the air, and there seems to be some connecting plot threads that have run all the way from Union Cross that are going to be relevant in the upcoming Kingdom Hearts 4. We discovered that Xigbar was actually the lost master Lushu. The foretellers have returned, and it seems that the Master of Masters plan after all this time is still in effect. And whether or not this Kingdom Hearts series, up to what it has been so far, has been part of that plan, we are not sure. But today we have a couple more things that we need to discuss that should give us a little more insight on what is going on at the end of this game and what will be going on in the future here. We have to talk about the ReMind DLC, which came out roughly a year after the base Kingdom Hearts 3 game, and that has a couple of components to it. And we have to talk about the secret reports that give us a little more information on the stuff that was happening in base Kingdom Hearts 3, and we'll close out the episode with some of my final thoughts on the game overall and some pontifications about the plot threads moving forward throughout the rest of the series, because after this, I gotta say, guys, we're kind of off the edge of the map in terms of where my knowledge is. From here on out, I'll be learning and discovering things alongside with you, because I never finished the mobile game before it was canceled, so I have a bit of that story to uncover and unlock some of that stuff that's going on. I never finished Dark Road, so we'll have the entirety of Dark Road to go through Master Xehanort's adventures in his youth, and we'll be discovering those secrets together as well. And then I haven't touched Melody of Memory yet. I got that game for Christmas like 2 years ago, and it was after I decided to do this series, and I just decided that I would play it at the end, at the finale, when that would be the game that would basically end Guiding Keys. That's the last Kingdom Hearts game that has been released. I mean, we've had rumors of Kingdom Hearts 4. There's an upcoming mobile game called Missing Link, but news about that game has been few and far between. So Melody of Memory will be a first-time playthrough for me and an experience, a fresh experience alongside all of you, and we'll see what that game has to tell us about the future. But as for Kingdom Hearts 3, this will be it, and it's been a long road. So with that being said, let's go ahead and dive into the ReMind DLC. Kingdom Hearts 3 ReMind was a downloadable content episode for Kingdom Hearts 3, developed and published by Square Enix. It was released on the PlayStation 4 on January 23rd, 2020, February 25th, 2020 for the Xbox, and there was a PC version of Kingdom Hearts 3 plus the ReMind DLC combo pack that was released on the Epic Store on March 30th, 2021, and on Steam this year, June 13th, 2024. It has some separate review scores on the internet, and I was able to gather up a couple of them here. On Metacritic, it is sitting at a 66 out of 100. Destructoid gave it an 8 out of 10. Game Informer gave it a 6.5 out of 10. GameSpot a 4 out of 10. And IGN a 6 out of 10. So not really glowing reviews for the DLC portion of the Kingdom Hearts 3 ReMind experience, which is kind of disappointing because this was what replaced essentially the final mix experiences that we had been getting for all major Kingdom Hearts releases up until this point. And I'd always found the Final Mix versions, now that I own the HD remastered Final Mix versions of all the games, I'd found that the Final Mix versions added enough to make the games interesting, worth playing through again, and added some pinnacle challenges at the end that kind of expanded on the gameplay, as well as some additional lore cutscenes for the games that they were released for. So to see that this game did not get great review scores, and I tend to agree with the review scores and a lot of what the reviews were saying, that the ReMind DLC was just an excuse to kind of retread the last couple hours of the game. It didn't add too much, didn't really do anything. I do think there are portions of the ReMind DLC, a couple of episodes, that add some interesting things, and when we get to those, I'll explain them to you. But yeah, overall, I had a lot of high expectations for the ReMind DLC, and I was very whelmed, I would say, when I came out of it. I was not really that impressed. I had kind of already seen all of the cutscenes and stuff online. I had watched it, not having yet played it yet. So yeah, I was not really impressed with the ReMind DLC, and I found myself, I guess, wishing for a Final Mix edition of the game rather than just a short DLC. We did get some stuff that I would consider a Kingdom Hearts 3 type Final Mix, but we'll get to that when we get to that. I'll just pretty rapidly go through the story and gameplay of the stuff that happened. We have some interesting revelations here, but beyond that, there's not too much that's actually interesting about the ReMind DLC. So the ReMind DLC is actually split up into 3 episodes, and we'll go over each of them because you unlock them sequentially as you play them. And they are first the ReMind episode, then the Limit Cut episode, and then the Secret episode. Again, I'll be honest, I don't have too much to say about this stuff because I agree with the middling review scores. The DLC is very underwhelming. Well, I do think it enhances the understanding of the events at the end of the game, gives some interesting nuggets to think about while waiting for Kingdom Hearts 4. It feels like maybe that stuff was just kind of stripped out of the main game and then repackaged. The part where this DLC shines is some of the optional boss fights, which in my opinion are some of the peak gameplay challenges in the whole series and some of the best video game bosses in all of gaming. Starting with ReMind first, and ReMind is basically the retelling of what happens at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. This is what happens when Sora goes to find Kairi after defeating Xehanort. So the scene when they're all in the Keyblade graveyard and he's like, I'm going to look for Kairi. I'm going by myself. You can't stop me. Opens a portal in the sky and basically leaves. And then we get the flash to the end credits and the end events. This is the journey that Sora undertakes to actually find Kairi and rescue her, because we know at the end of base Kingdom Hearts 3, we see them both on the island with the rest of the characters when Sora kind of dissolves and just kind of vanishes in the sunset as the sunset is happening. This is the story of those events. We get a couple of introductory events that give us a little more insight to the organization stuff before we get to what Sora is doing. The first scene we get is with Xigbar and Luxord in Olympus, and this goes back to the beginning of the game when we first see Maleficent and Pete looking for the black box. And it's revealed that Luxord has some suspicions about who Xigbar actually is and what is the nature of the box he is looking for.
May your heart be your guiding key.
Picture this. A black goat stashes away a letter, then orders a white goat to search for it. What could his intentions possibly be?
Great! A riddle. Just what I need.
There are many possibilities. Perhaps he forgot where it's hidden. Or he's playing a prank. Or the letter has truly gone missing. I can think of several reasons offhand. Guessing is simply useless.
Well, then just follow your orders, plain and simple.
Yes, that's what I've always done. I follow the orders from above, without question. However, I sometimes can't help but read into my opponent's strategy.
Too long on the job?
If the contents of the box are so unknown, why is it of such critical importance to the organization? Furthermore, was it Xehanort or Xemnas who gave the order?
Well, it's tricky.
All Xehanort cares about is the clash between the 7 lights and 13 darknesses. It's unlikely he would hold such an interest in this mysterious box. Which means the order was issued by Xemnas, or the one who informed me of my task, you.
As if. It must have been Xemnas.
My inquiries suggested otherwise.
Oh man, you asked him.
What are your intentions?
Look, I don't know what's inside the box, but it's been protected by Keyblade wielders since way back when. Aren't you curious? I heard it contains information that's vital to all Keyblade wielders. Secrets.
And where did you hear this?
I don't remember. I keep my eyes and ears wide open, but I've traveled so many different places. It's hard to keep everything straight, you know?
If this box is truly as important as you say, why now? I believe you discovered that others also seek it, and you need to find it before anyone else does, in order to keep your connection to the box a secret from those around you. Xigbar, who are you really? No matter. It doesn't make a difference to me. It's all the same. I'm content to feign ignorance.
The question is, who are you, Luxord?
Luxord ends up leaving questioning Xigbar's identity, while Xigbar questions who Luxord is in return because we don't really know. So it's very clear that these two kind of don't trust each other because, again, Luxord is seeing what we've seen the entire series, that Xigbar actually knows more than he is letting on at every single step. And now they are on this wild goose chase to find this black box that nobody knows anything about. Well, in return, when Luxord leaves, Xigbar kind of says the same thing because we know the identity of the organization members that are lower than him. I'm, of course, referencing Marluxia, Larxene, Demyx. We've been told that they have a connection to the ancient Keyblade legacy. Luxord was there as well. We know Marluxia and Larxene's connection to that legacy. They're part of the Union Cross gang. We don't really know what Demyx and Luxord's connection are, though, and that's kind of what Xigbar's questioning because he doesn't know that either, even though he's been around. We know it now, he is Lushu. He's been around for all the events, and even he doesn't know what Luxord's role in all of this clearly is. I mean, he doesn't understand what Luxord's role is in the grand plan, in the grand narrative of his master, which is kind of the grand plan that he is operating under. After that, we then transition to a quick scene, which is the final scene we see in the Keyblade Graveyard at the end of base Kingdom Hearts 3, where Sora uses the power of waking to go after Kairi. So that's nothing new. After this, we get an utterly fascinating scene featuring two men in black hooded, the familiar organization cloaks that we've come to know and love. And they're in the Keyblade Graveyard. One is sitting on a rock, waiting, a taller man, while a shorter individual approaches. The shorter individual pulls his hood back before sitting beside the taller man and reveals himself to be young Xehanort. And as the taller man speaks, we recognize his voice, and it is none other than the Master of Masters.
So? Yeah. It wards off darkness. It's useful.
Told ya. So, how'd it go? The tour.
I learned the reason for my existence.
Oh! Tell me more.
All around the world, people live seemingly peaceful lives. They believe themselves to be moral and virtuous, but it's all an act. Darkness lurks in the pit of everyone's heart. Their light is a total farce.
Sounds like your trip around the world opened your eyes, but you got a little bit more than you anticipated. You must have seen a lot of darkness.
Those who are weak and who desire greater power simply strip the strong of their power and convince themselves they've earned it. That's how people become tainted by darkness. They believe what they want to believe, using hollow reasons as justification. They repeat this cycle, and their darkness grows.
So you're saying the weak feel the need to justify their actions to maintain a sense of self. Can't let that slide?
No, it's better they be ruled by darkness. People carry delusions of having power, but it's a lie. They are but sheep pretending to be wolves. Though I admit, I can understand why.
Oh, I've never heard that one before. A Keyblade wielder willing to side with the darkness? Why not just let them be until the darkness consumes them?
Because left alone, the world would fall to chaos. There needs to be order.
You sure about that? Why not just sit back and watch it play out?
Understanding hearts is difficult. More so the emotions within. I simply realize that it's easy to dismiss what you don't comprehend.
All right, all right. The world needs you. I'll grant you that one.
I don't know what I can do, but I will act. What comes next is too important.
I suppose letting false light dictate the future might be a pretty lousy move. So, you can make a change. You have that power. What do you want for the world?
Power, eh? Who knows? My training's coming to an end, and the exam's not far off. Maybe I can gain some clarity then.
You're letting the exam decide? Listen to me. The results don't matter. You believe the world needs you. Sounds like you already know where you're headed.
It's funny. Somehow, I can sense where I'm supposed to go, and what I'm supposed to do. Yes. Even this coat. There's something familiar about it. As if I'm meant to wear this.
No. You'll ditch it soon.
What do you mean?
I mean that one day you're going to outgrow it.
How so?
If you truly possess great power, the darkness can't control you. You won't need a silly old coat to stay safe. In fact, you'll be the one controlling the darkness instead. Me, on the other hand, I'm too much of a scaredy cat to ever take mine off.
Who are you, really? Some kind of fortune teller?
Well, I could lie and tell you that's what I am when I'm actually a brilliant artist, or even a scholar. I could tell you that I dream of world peace when I'm actually planning for its destruction. The truth is what you see with your eyes, not what you hear.
So, your name?
What did I just... Never mind. I guess there's no harm. My name is... I'm a lost master.
Lost Master?
May your heart be your guiding key.
I just put in the cutscene audio there so you could hear the entire conversation because I think it's worth hearing because it pertains to kind of the larger overarching narrative of Kingdom Hearts. This scene is interesting. We know that the catalyst of Xehanort's journey is that he goes out into the world and sees darkness in it, and that sets his plan in motion. He sees the world not as this light that's happening, not as this light that is illuminating everything. He sees darkness in the hearts of people. He sees darkness in the shadows that is cast by the light, and he is disgusted by it. Here, we get a bit more context for that journey. It appears that the Master of Masters met Xehanort sometime during his training and prodded him out of the nest, so to speak, to go and see the outside world. And that is where he saw the darkness inherent in the hearts of people, how they tried to project this false light despite having hearts filled with darkness. The early core concepts of his plan are beginning to form here about using power to control people to create a better world. The Master of Masters appears to be asking strategic questions to kind of prod him in this direction. And the young Xehanort also mentions how he feels like he knows what he needs to do, like a path has been laid out for him, obviously etched on his heart from time travel because he's time traveled from the past already, and he already feels like there's kind of a path that's laid out there for him. After this conversation, Xehanort grows suspicious of this stranger and presses him for answers. The master plays coy, giving him basically a nothing burger answer, essentially. And then Xehanort asks him for his name. And surprisingly, the master tells Xehanort, although in this cutscene, we don't hear it. There is a flash of light and silence engulfs the scene when the master speaks his name as Xehanort's eyes grow wide. But he does tell Xehanort that he is a lost master. He is a lost master before departing. And in the next scene, we'll see Xehanort says he's never seen this person ever again. But before we get to that, I want to talk about this because it seems that everything that I had told you guys leading up to Kingdom Hearts 3, I would have you believe that Xehanort has been the main catalyst, the main antagonist, the main driving force for all of this conflict in Kingdom Hearts, right? He was looking for the true Keyblade to access the true power of Kingdom Hearts, and as we learned in Kingdom Hearts 3, he basically wanted to hard reset the world to create a world of pure light that he would rule over to make sure that darkness did not fester in the hearts of people and destroy everything again. But here in this scene, we see that the Master of Masters is kind of puppeting things from behind the scenes, and he has a direct meeting with Xehanort in order to kind of push him into this direction. So this seems to indicate that everything that Xehanort has done or will do from his youth all the way until we defeat him in Kingdom Hearts 3 was part of the Master's plan, because we've learned that even though the Master is very aloof and very silly, he has a very meticulously crafted plan to achieve his ultimate goal, which is to defeat all of the darknesses, right? That is to defeat the 13 prime, the 13 big darknesses, which is what we discovered in the first part of the Union Cross episode. We also learned that in that episode that he disappeared from the world supposedly and has not been seen since, but at least not by his apprentices, Luxu or any of the foretellers. But here he appears to Master Xehanort. So we have to wonder if setting Xehanort on this path was somehow part of the Master's bigger plan to defeat these darknesses, if like he needed this second iteration of the Keyblade War to happen. He needed Master Xehanort to construct the Master Keyblade and summon Kingdom Hearts. And we have to wonder if Sora disappearing is part of this as well, because all these events have led up to that. It's very, very interesting. But we don't learn any more about it because that's the Master's only appearance in this section. So after the scene with the Master of Masters, we fast forward the 70-ish years to the present, where an older Xehanort, old man Xehanort now, sits in quiet contemplation, smirking before being interrupted by Xigbar, who asks why he is grinning.
What's so funny, old man? Mind sharing with us?
I stand here today because of a fated encounter. Very many years ago, when I was still a young lad. I never learned who he was, and perhaps I never will. But I see now the truth he spoke of.
We don't have time for bedtime stories. Without the kid, we're still down a 13th vessel. And as for the other 12, only 3 of us are here right now. Are you absolutely sure the others made their way back to their respective times?
And he basically tells Xigbar that a chance of fated encounter set him on his destined path, and he never saw that person ever again, referencing the Master of Masters. And I'll just put the cutscene audio in here so you can listen to basically this entire conversation, because it's kind of a explainer as to how all of the parts of the new organization come together.
Marluxia and Larxene are both here in this time, attempting to locate the new 7 hearts. Luxord is also somewhere about in this age, but after our last meeting, he went in search of something per your order. Isn't that so?
Huh. Oh, that. Right. Well, let's just say that what he's doing will benefit us in the long run. But it's really of no importance right this second. Go on.
Playing your cards close as usual. All right. The hearts of Ansem, Xemnas, Vanitas, Riku Replica, and young Xehanort returned to where they came from and reassembled once more. Each of them is seeking a guardian of light.
So, the ones who turn human, and then back again into nobodies are me, you, Luxord, Marluxia, and Larxene, that's 5. The ones from the past transferred into replicas are Ansem, Xemnas, Vanitas, Riku Replica, and the old man's younger self. Then we add the old man in, the total comes up to 11. I think we're still missing 2.
Now we must discuss why we have assembled here today. My incarnations from past times, vessels into which I transferred my heart, my essence, were destroyed. Thus I was restored to what you see now. For one to completely disappear, their heart and body must be restored to their original form. That is one reason why I distributed my heart into several vessels. Ansem and Xemnas originated from Terra, or rather his young form, and it too was restored. However, my heart has returned to me, while his is yet lost. I decided to fill this hollow vessel with my heart. Indeed, the very same heart that previously resided within young Terra.
So that makes 12. Then, who do we get to replace the kid?
20 replicas were created by Vexen. The first 12 were nothing more than puppets, barely human. The prototype model was the Riku replica, and then number I was made. That leaves us with 6. Ansem, Xemnas, Vanitas, Riku Replica, and young Xehanort's hearts. 5 vessels, 1 left. Vexen and Demyx are candidates, but backups at best. The plan for the last replica is to give it a heart that is connected to Sora's.
Connected to Sora? Anyone in mind?
The second prototype that was created, number I. Though erased from memory, it remained in Vexen's records. Its existence is greatly linked to Sora's memories, and thus should prove to be more than adequate for our needs.
Number I. An imaginary number. How fitting.
While young Xehanort is occupied with transferring hearts, I must go fulfill my duty. I will go and retrieve Vexen.
Reliable as always. It sounds to me like you've got everything dependably under control. Well, I'm off to do my part.
The plan, as we agreed upon.
May your heart be your guiding key.
So as you can hear by this audio, Saïx is also in this scene, and it kind of serves as a rundown as to where all the different aspects of Xehanort come from for the true organization. Marluxia, Larxene, Luxord, Xigbar, and Saïx were all recompleted when they were defeated for the first time, and they all willingly rejoined Xehanort and became nobodies again in the current timeline. So there was no time travel shenanigans to get those characters where they were in the current timeline. They were recompleted and just became nobodies again in order to join the true organization. Young Xehanort had been traveling through time to bring the hearts of Ansem, Xemnas, Vanitas, Riku Replica to the replicas in the current timeline, bringing the total to 11 with Old Man Xehanort there. Xehanort accounts for the body of Terra, bringing the total to 12, and Saïx explains how they're going to get their 13th member and how it ends up being Xion, as you heard in the cutscene audio. Also, you'll probably notice that the voice of Master Xehanort is different here. He's voiced by the legendary Christopher Lloyd, a.k.a. Doc Brown. Rutger Hauer had passed away before the DLC came out, so they just decided to have Doc Brown do the voice of Master Xehanort, and I think he kills it. I think he does a fantastic job. After this scene, we finally catch up with Sora post Keyblade Graveyard when he leaves everybody to see what he's doing. And he goes back to the final world to visit Chirthi after he departs by himself from the Keyblade Graveyard. Chirthi expresses that this time it's going to be more difficult to bring Kairi back, despite Sora saying that he's already brought back 6 hearts. And Sora's basically like, what difference was if I do it one more time, correct? Chirthi counters this by saying the power of waking is meant to be used to restore sleeping hearts, not hearts that have faded from existence. This is what he did when he rescued the Guardians, and this is what he's proposing to do in order to save Kairi. Chirthi then explains to him why this is so bad. By restoring the Guardians, Sora broke a taboo of nature by altering history, the destined path of events that are supposed to happen, and those that break a taboo of nature pay an extraordinary and terrible price. Sora has a flashback to the warnings that young Xehanort was giving him for abusing the power of waking, and Chirthi is basically saying the same thing. He's warning Sora of the consequences. He will lose the power of waking and vanish from this world, as we see that he does at the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. And without his power, he wouldn't be able to return back to the world he's from, wherever he ends up being. But Sora is undeterred, as he always is. He's incredibly optimistic, as he always is. He decides to press on, and Chirthi instructs him on what to do. He will return to the past once again, except this time he won't be able to change it. Sora will be returning back to the point at which he already changed time, aka where they defeated the Tornado of Heartless and the Lingering Will came to fight Terranort. And Chirithy tells him that he must follow the hearts of the Guardians in order to reach Kyrie's heart. But in order to do this, he'll only have the length of time from the moment Sora left that place originally to pull it off and restore Kyrie's heart before then. So he can't just do it in the similar manner that he did before, because he already went back to that point in time and changed time once. And that's like the new destined path, which I guess makes sense. In any of the Kingdom Hearts wikis, if you read about this cyclical thing of Sora going back and changing time, using the power of waking to change time and rewrite destiny and rewrite history, it refers to that point at which he returns to in the Keyblade Graveyard before they all got wiped out by the tornado as a singularity. And I'm not quite sure why, because there's nothing visually that would suggest that that's a singularity. But that is the point where time branches off from the destined path and Sora changes what is supposed to happen. And for whatever reason, he only has the length of time from when he returns to that point to when they defeat Xehanort to restore Kyrie's heart to her. So like a lot of the reviews and stuff said, this is an excuse to replay the end events of the game from a different perspective, you could say. As we traverse each of the Guardians' hearts, we do get some extra boss fights and gameplay. You see Naminé bring in the Lingering Will to turn the tide against Terra Xehanort, and Sora, at least the Sora that travels back in time to traverse the path of hearts of the Guardians, gets to have a one-on-one fight with Terra Xehanort as he traverses the Keyblade Graveyard. And even during that fight, Terra Xehanort is like, hey, we know what you're doing, and it's not going to end well for you. We get to refight a lot of these kind of severance battles as Sora traces the connections between the Guardians' hearts. But I think the cool thing about this is that we can choose to fight them as different Guardians. So in the Dark Riku replica fight, you can play as Riku. When Roxas returns, you can play as Roxas. It's a really cool little addition. You also get to play as Aqua as she and Ven face down against Vanitas and Terra Xehanort. Sora eventually reaches the point where Xehanort strikes Kyrie and shatters her. He finds himself in Scala ad Caelum alone, and this is actually an additional playable section in Scala where you get to explore the city and chase down the fragments of Kyrie's heart. It's cool design because I think there are some more like puzzle solving elements and exploration elements in the open area of Scala, and I think they could definitely take some inspiration from this part of the game to make future KH levels more in-depth and less linear, add a little bit more of that exploration factor to them by having puzzles in the world that you kind of solve to make things happen. Like there are several puzzles as you explore Scala that you have to solve and figure out to get the different fragments of Kyrie's heart, which is what you're looking for. As this is all happening, and as the Sora from the change timeline goes into Scala along with Donald and Goofy to have the final confrontation with Master Xehanort, we get an extra scene with the Guardians on the outside as they contend with Kingdom Hearts. While Sora is fighting Xehanort in Scala, the 13 aspects of Xehanort come out of like Kingdom Hearts or the portal to confront the Guardians. And this is a boss fight where you like control all of the groups at once as you attack and defend against all the different Xehanort clones at once. It's pretty crazy. And it fills in the blanks as to what the Guardians were doing while Sora was in Scala fighting Master Xehanort. Apparently all the 13 aspects, the clones of him, came out and started fighting the other Guardians that remained outside. So they had to contend with fighting the clones, the aspects of darkness of Xehanort, while Sora was inside. I don't really know how that happens. There's not really a lore explanation as to why, but it's a pretty cool scene. I guess long story short of this DLC is that Sora does manage to trace the connections of the hearts of the Guardians and find all the pieces of Kyrie's heart, and she is restored. And her and Sora actually have a really cool boss fight with the armored version of Master Xehanort, where you can control Kyrie. And it's pretty cool, and it's really cool to be able to like control Kyrie and her have some agency in the games that she's been kidnapped in like 4 times. Fucking finally. And it's really, really cool. But basically, this just explains how Sora got Kyrie back. Sora and Kyrie go back to the final world to get Chirithy, And we get the usual end scenes with all of our various heroes returning to their worlds, with the added scenes of Sora and Kairi also visiting those worlds with Chirithy as well. And they're even there when Chirithy goes back to Ven when they're in the land of departure. But throughout this whole experience, however, Sora is fading. He'll like look at his hands and realize they're kind of transparent. They kind of flash and they're kind of see-through. And when we get to the final scene on Destiny Island again, he does ultimately end up fading away, as both Chirithy and Xehanort warned him, being removed from the world for committing a taboo of nature, abusing the power of waking, and rewriting events and history twice, basically. So that's the story of how Sora saves Kairi. It's not terribly exciting, but it explains, at least gives a reason as to why Sora was removed from the world. He commits a taboo of nature, and by committing the taboo, the universe takes actions to correct and basically purge a person like a virus out of its system. Purge a person that abuses this power. Up next, we have what is called the Limit Cut episode. In the Limit Cut episode, it elaborates on events that happened after Kingdom Hearts 3 post Sora's disappearance. It's been 1 year since he's disappeared, and nobody has been able to find him. Everyone has been searching for him with little success. The Wayfinder trio of Terra, Aqua, and Ven went into the Realm of Darkness together to search for him. Kairi has been in a year-long stasis slumber coma with Ansem the Wise, Ienzo, and Evan as they try to see if there's any connection in her heart or memories to Sora to be able to trace him. The gang over in Twilight Town have been probing the data and memories of Xion and Roxas to see if there's any connection there. And Sid Highwind and the Final Fantasy gang back in Radiant Garden, we get to see them for the first time. This is the Final Fantasy gang is shoehorned in at the end of the ReMind DLC. Fantastic. Sid Highwind and the Final Fantasy gang have been going over the data from Organization 13 to see if there's any clues or hints. When Sid gets this absolutely crazy idea, he creates a digital Sora inside the computer and recreates the entire Organization 13 digitally, and they use the data Sora to fight data organization battles in order to access the deeper information. This is basically just an excuse to reintroduce the data organization fights into the game the way they had them in the Kingdom Hearts 2 final mix. You can fight all the members of Organization 13 again in revamped, super challenging boss fights, and it's honestly a lot of fun. All the fights are really well designed. Some of them are peak challenges in the entire series. It really does a good job of highlighting the strengths of the Kingdom Hearts 3 combat mechanics. So it's a nice little thing they threw in at the end of this to be like, hey, you like the data organization stuff in Kingdom Hearts 2? We'll give it to you in 3. And they revamp a lot of the boss fights because, like I said in the last episode, I felt like a lot of the organization fights were hype moments, but they felt kind of underwhelming, and how organization fights had been peak challenges in previous Kingdom Hearts games. They were a step above like Heartless bosses or Disney World bosses. And the data organization fights in Kingdom Hearts 3 returns them to that status because all these fights are incredibly, incredibly challenging. So Sora ends up going through and the data ends up being inconclusive. So again, they don't find out anything. It's just an excuse to have really awesome boss fights as part of the DLC. The fairy godmother from Cinderella appears to Riku, saying that maybe the key lies in his connection to Sora's dreams or something like that. And that's all that we see from that part of the ReMind DLC. Then there's one last part. There's the secret episode, and it gives us one last scene or series of scenes that kind of ultimately set up Kingdom Hearts 4. In this scene, we do in fact see where Sora is. He's in the final world after he disappeared. At least we think he is. It's the final world at night. It's very dark. We've never seen the final world at night. You can still tell that he's on the sheen of the endless expanse of the water that he's standing on. But it's nighttime and there are stars in the sky, and it's kind of hard to see what's going on. But Sora isn't alone. He encounters an individual who's there with him who answers Sora's calls into the darkness. The stranger is familiar to us, and Sora actually recognizes him too, calling him Yozora. You know, the protagonist from the Toy Story World video game Verum Rex, that Yozora. And if you remember from my description of him, he has heterochromia, 2 different set colors of eyes, and kind of has some elements of both Riku and Noctis to his design. Anyways, Sora recognizes him as Yozora, and this catches Yozora off guard, and I'll put in some of their conversation here.
Where are you?
Over here!
I see you.
Hey, aren't you?
You know me?
Yeah, you're Yozora, right?
How do you know that? Who are you?
I'm Sora. And actually, there's something I have to ask you.
Sora? You're Sora?
Huh? You know who I am?
Sure. I've heard of you.
If you're here, then this can't be the real world, can it? But wait, that girl, she told me about you. Maybe you are real after all.
Are you done? No, this isn't the real world, and I am here. But this isn't what I really look like. How'd you recognize me as Yozora?
Huh?
Why are you using Sora's name?
Because I am Sora.
If you are who you say, and it was fate that brought us here, then my path is clear.
What?
Yozora does seem to know who Sora is as well, asking how Sora recognizes him as Yozora and why he's using Sora's name. Yozora states that if Sora is in fact who he says he is, that his path is clear, and Yozora summons like a future gun crossbow thing to his side as the light beneath them begins to glow a bright white. The light transitions to the familiar stained glass platform of Sora's heart, and then transitions once again to the roof of a skyscraper in a night-draped city that is surrounded by other skyscrapers. Yozora explains how he accidentally wandered into this place and was told to save Sora after undergoing some trials as he summons a futuristic-looking sword to go alongside his crossbow gun. Sora's shocked, asking what's with the weapon as he summons his Keyblade to defend himself. And as this happens, one of Yoko Shimomura's greatest tracks she has ever written, Nacht Flügel, begins to play in the background. And this is the final challenge secret boss in Kingdom Hearts 3 is against Yozora. There's two ways that this fight can actually end, both canonical. You can defeat Yozora, and he begins to fade away, stating that he guesses his powers aren't needed yet before fading away completely in a bright flash of light. And as the light subsides, Sora finds himself back in the final world alone. Number two, Yozora can win this fight, in which Sora begins to crystallize until he does completely, with Yozora stating that he will save him before a flash of light engulfs the screen, Yozora is a tough fight. This fight is so fucking difficult. It's insane. I don't know if it reaches the height of challenge of the Lingering Will or the mysterious figure, but I had a lot of fucking problems with this fight. It's really, really challenging. And it's awesome. And Nachtflügel is such a great track. But either way, we get one final scene in the game. And this is actually probably the craziest fucking part of everything. The final scene at the end of this fucking DLC of this game is a recreation of the car driving scene that was in the trailer for Final Fantasy Versus 13. But instead of Noctis sleeping in the back of the car, slowly waking up from his nap that he's taking, it's Yozora. And what's more, there's a voice talking to him from the front seat that sounds like Luxord's voice actor. And as Yozora awakens, we hear both him and Sora start reciting the first spoken words ever heard in the entire Kingdom Hearts series. I've been having these weird thoughts lately. Oh, and Yozora is also voiced by Dylan Sprouse. So, fun fact there, Sweet Life of Zack and Cody makes an appearance in the Kingdom Hearts universe. Funny thing. A final series of words flashes on screen. An oath to return. Kingdom Hearts. There is a secret ending. I would not deprive you of the secret ending, and of course there would be a secret ending. Water on pavement. A city at night. Sora is face down on the asphalt as he picks himself up and begins to look around. Riku is here too. They are not together, but they both begin to look around and inspect their environments. A city after a fresh rainfall, drops of water beating on car windows, red stoplights, towering skyscrapers, a building that has a neon sign with 3 numbers, 104. Sora standing in the middle of a crosswalk, a 5-way crosswalk, an almost exact recreation of the famous Shibuya crossing in the Shibuya ward in Tokyo. Riku walks down the street under the light of the streetlights, splashing light puddles as he goes, as he looks up at an ominous-looking building, brutalish architecture from which 2 spires rise forth. Unbeknownst to him, Yozora sits on top of one of these spires, watching the city at night. A man in a black organization coat steps to the corner edge of a building as the wind blows gently. He notices this world's spherical moon and holds up his hands, making a heart shape over the moon. Gold words flash on a black screen. Reconnect. Kingdom Hearts. Now, I know you probably have a lot of questions. There's a lot of information that I just threw at you. As you can see, the ReMind DLC isn't necessarily important for the way that Sora rescues Kairi, but it is important for the fact that where he ends up and what it means for Kingdom Hearts 4. And there appears to be some connection to Yozora, this city at night that looks like Tokyo, as a place that Sora ends up, and Riku ends up there as well. I'll run down the list of points of things at the end of this so that I can explain it to you and kind of set out some plot threads. I don't have any theories on what's going on, but there are some plot threads that I can extend forward that you can be thinking about for Kingdom Hearts 4. But before we do that, I have to read the secret reports that will give us just a little bit more context as to the events that happened in Kingdom Hearts 3. So with that being said, let's start running down the secret reports. As is tradition, there are 13 of them, and I will kind of talk about them at the end once I read them all. Secret Report 1. Recollections. Am I alive? I awoke in a cell, alone, until the researchers came with their tests and their prodding to uncover my identity. I had no answer to offer them, 4 friends, and a key. That is the sum total of my memory. I could not even recall my name. I was simply called X there. My only solace was the time I spent talking with the 2 boys who would visit from time to time. One day, a man came to take me from my prison. I could not see him for the darkness, save that he wore an eye patch. Even now, years on, I feel no closer to understanding who or what I am. May my heart be my guiding key. Written by Unknown. Secret Report 2. Mark of Mastery Journal. Some days have passed since I set off on my journey to prepare for the Mark of Mastery examination. Ericus asked for leave to undertake the same pilgrimage, but apparently I am to be first to tour the worlds written of in the old fairy tales. Until a few short years ago, I'd known only my own world, a speck of land surrounded by sea, but how I dreamed of, yearned for the world beyond. And granted guidance from the future, I left that nest behind as I treaded the path to my master's side. I came in contact with darkness in many forms. I knew even then, as by instinct, terrifying as its power was, it could be harnessed, mastered. Ericus is a blue blood, descended from the very first masters in the age of fairy tales. But I did not come this far to indulge in adulation. I will be his peer, his equal, and to do that, I must learn to wield the power born from both darkness and light in proper balance. Xehanort. Secret Report 3. Experiments of the Heart, Notes on Subject X, Excerpt 1. Subject was found in the central square shortly after dawn. Female, approximately 15 years old. After 7 days' observation, she spoke her first words, but could not provide a name. Subject exhibits signs of profound amnesia and displays concern about which world this is. Her words suggest that she departed her home world with others, though she cannot recall the names of her erstwhile companions. All efforts to explore those memories have been met with a rejection response. After his initial experiments on me, Ansem the Wise ceased his research into the heart, his hand stayed by some fear I cannot fathom. Yet this new subject is like me, devoid of memories. She is the perfect sample upon which to continue my master's work. She, too, could benefit from it. By traversing the heart, we have a direct path into memory. I myself have begun to reclaim my lost past thanks to these very experiments. Who is she? Whence has she came? These are questions no scientist could ignore, and the words she muttered, "May your heart be your guiding key." Written by Xehanort. Secret Report 4. Experiments of the Heart, Notes on Subject X, Excerpt 2. Subject's memories have not returned, and our conversations remain less than lucid. What fragments can be gleaned evoke a bygone world, like one out of fairy tales. As improbable as it seems, the question may not be where she has come from, but when. If she truly has crossed through time, the prospect of probing her heart is all the more compelling. My pilot studies used a handful of subjects, but none possessed the fortitude to endure them. Ultimately, all suffered mental collapse. I knew it would be a heavy blow to lose a subject as unique as she. Upon discovering the tests I've been conducting, my master demanded that I cease my work immediately and destroy what research I have compiled. Worse still, he ordered the release of my remaining subjects. She is gone. Where is Subject X now? Has wise Master Ansem hidden her away? Whatever the case, I will not be deterred. I will take her place as the first subject in the grand experiment to come. Written by Xehanort. Secret Report 5. Memoirs, Excerpt 1. That castle was a wonderland to us children. Within its walls, Ansem the Wise conducted his research, and the fruits it bore allowed everyone outside to live in peace and happiness. That alone was enough to stoke our interest, though not all of the rumors that escaped its walls were so benevolent. By night, the muffled sounds of human wails emerged. There was talk of dangerous human experimentation. Lee and I couldn't help but hatch a plot to steal inside and sate our curiosity. The two who stood guard at the gates were researchers themselves, though you wouldn't think it to see them, massive and barrel-chested as they were. And slipping past that duo was only the first hurdle. It proved one not easily cleared. We were found and tossed out on our ears time and again. On the day we finally secured our entry, we descended the long spiral stair at the heart of the castle to find a dark space below it, lined with cages. There wasn't light enough to see if they were inhabited, and we were in no position to call out any occupants within. Yet we could feel it, a definite presence there in the black. Terror washed over us, and we immediately regretted coming. But just as we turned to flee, we heard the faintest of voices. The urge to run was nigh overpowering, but someone or something beckoned us on. There, framed by a tenuous sliver of light, we found her. Written by Syx. Secret Report 6, Memoirs, Excerpt 2. It was too dim to make out her features. We spoke to her in hushed whispers. Who was she? Why was she imprisoned here? She had no answers for us, had no memories at all. She was an enigma, but I knew I wanted to help her. And so we continued our infiltrations. Most of them stopped short at the castle gates. When we did manage our way inside, we spoke with her. That was all the comfort two children like us could offer. But Lee had other ideas. He was determined to free her. We slipped into the castle that day knowing only that we wanted, with all our hearts, to save her. But we did not find her inside on that day or the next, or any of our subsequent visits. Had she been moved? Had we simply imagined her? Lee and I knew there was only one way to be certain. And so we stand before the castle gates today, not as trespassing children, but in order to become Ansem the Wise's newest apprentices. Written by Syx. Secret Report 7. On the Replica Program and Reanimation. Following my erasure and my recompletion as a human, I did not awaken right away. Perhaps the damage was exceptionally grave. Even after waking, I remained in bed, pondering my next course of action. In my work on the Replica Program for the organization, I produced some 20 vessels. Most of the early results were failures, and not one of them granted a number. The first success to emerge from that early lot was the Riku replica. Subsequently, Shion, number I, was essentially indistinguishable from a natural human, though she became unstable due to the influence of others. Using those two as my foundation, I worked to construct a number of nigh-perfect replicas, but just as they neared completion, my efforts were cut short. I suspect Xehanort aims to use both the initial lot as well as the unused replicas from my later work. I rose today and decided to walk out to the square, my first outing in some time. Yet my stroll was interrupted when a surprising visitor appeared with an unexpected offer. Though younger than me, he'd risen to become Xemnas' right hand. I accepted his terms and became a nobody once more. Easier to gain access to the old replica program that way. Whatever it takes to atone. Written by Vexen. Secret Report 8. The Real Organization. Xehanort seeks to gather 12 vessels, which, together with his true actual self, he considers the real Organization 13. Now that he has the numbers he needs, Demix and I are being treated as reserves. Several others who served Xemnas in the old organization have followed the same course as mine, electing to abandon their newly restored humanity and rejoin the real organization as nobodies. But not Xemnas. Xemnas cannot exist in the present because there is already a Xehanort here, the old man in charge. The old man's humanity prevents his heartless and nobody, others vanquished in the past, and his younger self from being denizens of this timeline. To circumvent this, Xehanort is using the prototype replicas I created in the past as containers, plucking his other selves' hearts from the time they existed. Xehanort ordered me to refine the prototypes to make them closer still to the real thing. Perfecting my creations so that they may house true flesh and blood humans suits my own purposes as well. All that remains for my atonement is to devise a way to pass on as many of the vessels as I can to those who truly deserve them. Written by Vexen. Secret Report 9. Ansem Code Conspectus, Excerpt 1. I have pored over the data my master entrusted to Riku. Here I offer my preliminary conclusions. Within Sora's heart, there are 3 compartmentalized boxes, each containing the heart of another. One box holds Roxas, another holds a second heart that has been with Sora nearly as long. The third has held its heart for much longer. These hearts have melded with Sora's and no longer have voices of their own. Any attempt to mechanically extract them could prove as dire for Sora as what caused him to become a Heartless in the first place. First, a vessel for each heart must be readied. Then, a spark of some sort is required to induce its waking. Obviously, the ideal solution is to restore each heart to its own body, but whatever the case for the two unknown individuals, Roxas possesses no such thing. The same is true for Naminé, who we believe resides in Kyrie's heart. Still, if alternate bodies can be secured for them, all their hearts require to be awakened is that spark, people they cared for and who cared for them, who can show them the way home. Complete and perfect digitalization of the heart is impossible. We can only hope to partially reconstruct it. Thus, I see no way forward but to extract the hearts we so desperately need directly from within Sora. Fortunately, the data stored in Twilight Town contains a near-perfect record of the memories of those who lived there. And for Roxas and Naminé especially, this is crucial. Written by Ienzo. Secret Report 10. Ansem Code Conspectus, Excerpt 2. As for how to contain their hearts, the only conceivable option is the replicas. If we transfer in the digital memories from the Twilight Town archive, then replicas should be able to reconstruct each individual's human appearance with near-perfect results. Then, their hearts need only the right spark to wake them, so they may find their way out of Sora and Kyrie and into these newly made bodies. The replica program was truly revolutionary, but it was incomplete at the time of the old organization's dissolution. Without Evan, how are we to further the research? We need at least 3 replicas. One for Roxas and one for Naminé, and one for the unknown stowaway within Sora's heart. These are difficult quandaries, but as I work through my master's data, I find myself remembering the taste of ice cream. When I was a boy, he would bring me some when we took walks together. There will be time to regret my betrayal later. For now, my focus must be on restoring Roxas and Naminé and proving my master had good intentions. Written by Ienzo. Secret Report 11. Observations, Excerpt 1. I have seen it through. The Keyblade War unfolded exactly as was written on the lost page. Now, the Keyblade the Master entrusted to me must be bequeathed to another. 5 Union leaders have been chosen from the surviving Dandelions. I will pass the Keyblade to one of them, and then continue watching the future unfold. Yet it seems that someone has pulled the old switcheroo. One of the 5 is an imposter. Someone the Master did not choose. They represent a virus in the program he so carefully wrote. The virus has begun a strange undertaking, a reckless plot to allow the 5 to escape into another world line. Surely such a thing can't be possible. We're talking about the same trick that allowed the Dandelions to transfer to other world lines after the Keyblade War. But these children are no masters. They haven't the means, unless, of course, a certain lady of magic summoned here from the future knows more than I do. The whole Union leader thing was supposed to be by the books. Are these new events just another phase in the Master's grand plan? This report is signed unknown, but we can confer from context that this is Lushu writing these reports. Secret Report 12. Observations, Excerpt 2. Even on a world line with no Keyblade War, peace is but a dream. In the absence of us and our master, a darkness arrived, one that shall surely lead the world to yet another demise. Amid the chaos, I bequeath my Keyblade to one of the Union leaders, just as the master instructed. I watched as the 5 were sent to another world line at no small cost, ensuring the line of Keyblade wielders will live on. And now, Keybladeless, I must depart this land to fulfill my final task. This means casting my own body aside, and sojourning my heart in vessel after vessel, as many as it takes. But I will continue gazing upon each passing era, one onto the next. In time, be it years or decades, centuries or millennia, I will meet the 5 once more. Somewhere in this cyclical history of bequeathings, a chosen one will appear and reenact the Keyblade War. When this scapegoat arrives and takes my Keyblade in hand, that will be the time to take the stage and finish my role. The Lost Masters will awaken. Unknown, Lushu. Secret Report 13. Observations, Excerpt 3. It seems this body, this name will be my last. The lives I have lived over the ages could fill volumes, but for now I must focus on what matters most. The Keyblade has been successfully passed down, generation to generation, and it seems a Keyblade master devoted to the darkness may finally arise. Until now, I have watched over the course of events from a distance. Perhaps the time has come to intervene. I need only play the role of a fool desirous of the Keyblade's power. I will don the mask of his ally in order to keep watch over my Keyblade from close by. The Gazing Eye, a Keyblade forged from the eye of the Master of Masters. He passed it to me, as I have to others, and through it he can see the future, all that will ever come to pass. Spanning the ages in body after body, life after life, my task has been to keep vigil over the eye as it passes from hand to hand. It has been a long time, longer than I can express. But now, at last, the Keyblade War has begun, and Kingdom Hearts will open. A true and complete Kingdom Hearts, born of the clash between darkness and light. I will soon be reunited with my old companions, and in that moment, my long vigil will reach its end. He will return. Unknown, Lushu. In the past, as you probably noted, the secret reports were usually authored by one individual, and it's given us insight into the minds of different characters, mostly the aspects of Xehanort, Ansem the Wise. Those were from Kingdom Hearts 1 and Kingdom Hearts 2. In Kingdom Hearts 3, we have writings from several characters that give us a bit more insight into some of the minor details that may have been skipped over or not presented clearly in the story. We get a journal entry from the mysterious Subject X, a girl with amnesia that was experimented on by Terra Xehanort when he was an apprentice of Ansem the Wise. This takes place before / in the lead up to Kingdom Hearts 1. It seems that no one knows why she vanished or where she went, but in the entry written by Subject X, she mentions how a man with an eye patch came to take her away. We now know this individual to be the sixth apprentice of the Master, Lushu, Xigbar, and his fingerprints and actions can now be seen all over the series. We also get some entries from Sykes that talk about his and Axel's youth, how they used to sneak into the castle, and they met this mysterious girl, Subject X, and that one day she was just gone. Vexen and Ienzo's entries both focus on the replicas, how Xehanort used them, and how Ienzo needed vessels to restore Roxas and Naminé. We kind of touched on that. Ienzo also talks about a third heart inside of Sora, and this isn't very clear as to what this references, whether there is another heart inside of his own heart that's a lingering plot point from Kingdom Hearts 4, or if that heart was Xion because they eventually restored Xion and Xion has a connection to Sora's heart. I'm not 100% sure. And that doesn't ever really get resolved. So keep that in the back of your mind for future in case that comes up once again. The most interesting entries, I think, are reserved for the end and entries that are signed as unknown. But like I said, based on the context of everything we know, these are most certainly entries written by Lushu, the Master of Masters' sixth apprentice. He's been here since the beginning, watching as he was instructed to do by the Master. That was his role. And even at times intervening directly in events. He has survived by taking many different forms over the years to ensure the safety of the Master's Keyblade, the Gazing Eye, as it was passed down over generations. This was crucial for the Master being able to see into the future and write his book of prophecies. And he brings up several interesting points, Lushu does, in his writings. He reflects on the first Keyblade War that destroyed the original Foretellers, mentioning that the Dandelions survived beyond it as was intended. The 5 new leaders that were chosen from the Dandelions had taken their respective roles post-Keyblade War, but one of them was a traitor and an imposter. And we know this because in the Union Cross, part 1 of the Union Cross episode, we explained that the girl Strelitzia, who was supposed to be a Union leader, was murdered by a possessed Ventus who now fills her seat. Again, you probably really should go back and listen to the Union Cross episode. Lushu calls this a virus in the Master's carefully crafted plan, and Lushu seems unsure if this is a deviation from the Master's plan or if it was something he did intend all along. He then talks about the Union leaders escaping to another world line to ensure the survival of Keyblade wielders. And this is a bit confusing because we haven't covered this yet, but we will in the second part of Union Cross, which will be the next episode. Lushu mentions that he passed on his Keyblade to one of these leaders before they left, And he talks about going to fulfill his final task, taking many different forms and bodies along the way to do so. He also believes that somewhere along the line of history, a dark Keyblade wielder will appear who seeks to recreate the Keyblade War. This would be Xehanort, and that even this appeared to be part of the Master's plan. Lushu also says that when this event happens, the Lost Masters will awaken. So it does seem that everything that Xehanort was doing was something that was intended by the Master, and Lushu's job was to observe it so the Master would have forehand knowledge of this happening. Remember, the Master of Masters' goal is to defeat the darkness, which has cast off its physical form and manifested in 13 prime forces of darkness. That is his ultimate goal. So now, Lushu is taking the point of view that I've kind of been hinting at for all of this episode and some of the last episode, that all of these events appear to be taking place very specifically and very intentionally because they're helping the Master achieve some end to his goal, right? So much so that the Master hasn't been seen by anybody for thousands, if not tens of thousands of years, however long this takes, however long Lushu's been alive. Not even Lushu has seen him, but the Master of Masters decides to make his appearance known to Xehanort and set him on this destined path. So Lushu's just speculating the way we are, that all these events must be taking place because it was as the Master intended. His final report talks about the inevitable clash, the Keyblade War that Xehanort puts on, another Keyblade War, the opening of Kingdom Hearts, and he says when this happens, his task will truly be complete. He will be reunited with his companions, and then he states at the end, he will return. Obviously, have to be referencing the Master of Masters. We have a lot of there's a lot of information there. There's a lot of heavy stuff. And I cannot explain it to you thoroughly because we're at the edge of the map here. We don't have answers for a lot of these questions. We don't have answers for what the Master's plan is. We don't have answers for what comes next for Lushu and the Foretellers. We don't necessarily know where Sora is. What is Yozora's involvement? What is the connection, apparent connection to Final Fantasy Versus 13? There's a lot of things going on here. And because we're at the edge of the series, we've basically caught up to the story so far. We do have some more information that we will learn in Melody of Memory. I'm saving it for that game. But we're basically at the edge of the map here. We don't know where things are going. So the only thing I can kind of do is gather these threads up and have some thoughts and speculations on them. I think the ReMind DLC ultimately speaks for itself. The only thing that happens there is Sora performs a taboo of nature to get Kairi back, which causes him to disappear from the world, end up in the final world of this weird city place. All roads from the secret ending and the fight with Yozora lead to this city that we see in the secret ending at the end of all of this. And I think there are some things that we can infer from this ending to set up our speculation of Kingdom Hearts 4 and the future of the series. As of right now, like I said, we don't have concrete answers to this. There is speculation. There are a lot more advanced theories that the community has crafted that you can go watch videos on out there as to like who the Master is, where Sora is currently, what does Yozora have to do with this, blah, 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 all this stuff. We don't have answers for this. There are theories, and there are some fantastic theory crafting videos out there. But there are some things we can kind of guesstimate at. When Sora commits the taboo of nature by abusing the power of waking and vanishes from his world, in quotation marks, I'm doing, you can't see because this is a podcast, but I'm doing quotations. This is where he wakes up in this city, right? Considering that both Chirithy and young Xehanort warned Sora that this would be the result of abusing his power, we can safely infer that this world Sora is in is not the Kingdom Hearts universe, or this world is somehow removed from the natural worlds of Kingdom Hearts that we've been in, considering the universe removed him from the Kingdom Hearts universe for breaking the literal laws of nature and destiny. I'm not exaggerating when I say Sora finds himself in the famous Shibuya crossing in the same name ward of Tokyo. It's the exact same five-way crossing that has become a famous part of that city. If you play Persona 5, you're probably familiar with it. If you've probably seen videos of it on social media of just like when the stoplights stop and people crossing that street in all directions. It's the Shibuya crossing. It seems to infer that this city is maybe not Tokyo, but Tokyo-esque. Riku finds himself here in a different part of the city as well. We aren't sure how he was able to reach this place, considering they've been looking for Sora for almost a year. But the fairy godmother's words to him suggest that he's been able to reach whatever this world is via his connection to Sora, whether it's his dreams, whether it's his heart. We're not 100% sure. Yozora is here as well. And at this point, we're not sure of what his role in the story is going forward, but he does appear to have some connections to Riku, considering both characters' designs look very similar, and to Sora, considering that when they encountered one another, Yozora knew who Sora was, even going so far as to say that he had to save Sora. Sora knows Yozora, and due to his reaction when they first meet, we can infer a few things. The way he talks about Yozora and mentions her means that we can logically draw a connection between Yozora and the nameless star that Sora met in the final world. Could Yozora be the person the nameless star is waiting for? The person she cares about? Yozora's words seem to indicate that his appearance is not actually what he looks like, and the nameless star even mentions that the person she's waiting for is not who he currently is. Yozora shares a connection to Nomura's dream project, Final Fantasy Versus 13. The fact that they would remake the iconic trailer of Noctis being driven around in the car, except with Yozora, is the most on-the-nose connection that we can infer, suggesting that Nomura is going to draw in elements of his canceled dream project into Kingdom Hearts. Fans have speculated that the fact that Yozora and his friends appear in the Toy Story World video game named Verum Rex, aka True King, means that Nomura is going to use elements from this canceled project in Kingdom Hearts 4 and beyond in the next arc. These themes are strengthened even further considering this world that Sora, Yozora, and Riku find themselves in appears to be a somewhat realistic representation of the city of Tokyo. One of the taglines for Final Fantasy Versus 13 was a fantasy based in reality. Whether it plays a large or small part in the upcoming Kingdom Hearts 4 plot and the next arc, Nomura is poised, or seems poised, to incorporate these elements into the Kingdom Hearts story, perhaps trying to realize in some way a part of the project he never got to make and was taken from him to be transformed into Final Fantasy 15, a chopped up bastardization of what Versus 13 was going to be. We mentioned before that Luxord appears in this recreated car driving scene, as he is the one driving the car with Yozora in the back seat. We don't see him, but we can tell it's his voice. This answers one of the remaining questions, at least in part, about the non-Xehanort members of the organization. Xemnas told them they had a connection to the ancient Keyblade legacy. We know Marluxia and Larxene were nobodies of people who came from the Dandelions. Luxord's always been a mystery, and this only adds to the mystery, but at least we are starting to learn his place. Demyx is the only other remaining member that we aren't really sure of, and there are theories that he is related to Luxord in this capacity. Finally, we see a black-coated individual standing on the edge of the building, observing the moon as he makes a heart shape with his hands and holds it up to the moon. Couple things about this scene. Remember how the Master of Masters mysteriously vanished after giving the Foretellers and Lushu their roles? It's kind of similar to the way Sora suddenly vanished, abusing the power of waking. The fact that Sora finds himself in the same place now as the Master of Masters is surprising, but can sort of allow us to speculate as to the nature of the Master and what he's doing. Remember, his whole purpose and plan is to win the ultimate war against the darkness and the dark beings. Could he have used the power of waking to commit a nature taboo and vanish from the world? Perhaps he has tried too many times to defeat it, traveling back in time, creating singularities, committing taboos, using that power to travel back in time to try and rewrite history. We're unsure, but whatever the case may be, the Master disappeared from the world and ended up here. And now Sora, Riku, and Yozora are all here. What does it mean? Also, there has been some speculation. Some eagle-eyed fans have allegedly theorized that the building that the Master is standing on, based on when you see the shot of him against the city, kind of lining up the skyline with pictures taken from that same angle, is in fact the Square Enix headquarters building. So I'm not really sure if that was intentional or if that comes into play or not, but it's very interesting that he would be standing on a similar building that would give you a similar sightline to the fact that if you were standing on the Square Enix headquarters building. And people have like put out some documents and some maps lining up like the skyline and the view and stuff based on where everybody is. Definitely a fascinating, interesting plan there. It's led a lot of people to jokingly theorize that, oh, maybe Namor will be the final boss or whatever. And I think that's kind of meta. It'd be kind of funny to think about it that way. For me, in my capacity in this series, I cannot confirm anything based on the information we have so far. Smarter fans and content creators may have figured out more, but my role is simply to present the information and questions to you. All we can say for certain in the lead up to the next Kingdom Hearts games is that Sora, Riku, Yozora, and the Master all appear to be in some kind of alternate world reality that is based on real life Tokyo. This place actually has a name. We do discover this information in Melody of Memory, but I'll tell it to you now. It is known as Quadratum. Quadratum is the name of this place. We know why Sora went there, but we're unsure how Riku gets there. We're unsure who Yozora is and what his connection is to all of this. And we're also unsure why the Master is there and what his overall plan is. We can speculate a few things. Yozora seems to have connections to the beleaguered and later canceled Final Fantasy Versus 13, a game that has the slogan of fantasy based in reality. And in some way, Yozora is connected to all of this. So let's get off the Master of Master and talk about the Foretellers and the adventures of Lushu, what he was doing, the Foretellers' return, and the Master's ultimate plan. Let's kind of tie that in and speculate a little bit. The surprise reveal that Xigbar is Lushu reframes the entire story in a similar way that Birth by Sleep did, because obviously during Birth by Sleep, we came to discover that Xehanort was the overarching antagonist that was pulling the strings. But it appears that even Xehanort was just one part in a much bigger and overarching plan, one orchestrated by the Master and observed by his sixth apprentice, Lushu. Lushu survived beyond the first Keyblade War and the events of Union Cross. Between that time and his first contact with Master Xehanort, he passed down the Master's Gazing Eye Keyblade and cast away his body every time it became too old to continue on, or he felt like he needed a new vessel to hide in, putting his heart in several different vessels as time went by, going by many different forms and many different names, but he was never too far off from the Keyblade of the Master that he had passed down. Master Xehanort then would appear to be a part of the Master's grand plan, and Lushu speculates as much in the secret reports. This is confirmed by the fact that one of the scenes during the ReMind DLC shows us that it was originally the Master himself that gave a young Xehanort the black coat and set him on this path, even telling Xehanort his name that we don't hear during their brief encounter. Still, he decided to reveal to Xehanort that he is a lost Master. The Master allegedly vanished from the world before the first Keyblade War, but here he appears to Master Xehanort many ages later. We're not really sure why or how, and why he would be gone now if he was able to appear 70-ish years ago. Lushu can only speculate at the full scope of the Master's plan, reminiscing on how a darkness-possessed Ven killed Strelitzia, took her place as one of the new Union leaders from the surviving Dandelions. He wonders if this was a virus in the grand scheme of the Master's plan, but Lushu carried out his duty. He shepherded the Keyblade along ages and generations so that the Master's eye could see into the future, as was his role. So this means that everything that's happened in the Kingdom Hearts series so far has happened under Lushu's watchful eye. He has intervened in events where he has thought necessary to guide pieces into their proper places, a second Keyblade War, summoning of the One True Kingdom Hearts, and this appears to have been the end goal, at least for Lushu. And with the return of the Gazing Eye Keyblade, which we had been calling No Name, but it's known as the Gazing Eye, now that Keyblade has returned to Lushu, he's gotten it back, and Kingdom Hearts has been summoned, the foretellers returned to this world slash timeline slash to life, as Lushu predicted they would in the secret reports. Is this all part of the Master's plan? Will he soon return to the world? It appears he already has at least once, considering that it was the Master that set Xehanort on this destined path. I wouldn't say Lushu's motives are inherently bad or evil or antagonistic. I wouldn't go so far as to say he, the foretellers, or the Master are inherently evil or antagonistic forces in the story. There's an air of mystery around all of them, around what happens, albeit I will say that air does feel a little bit sinister at times, especially with the roles that Lushu played, some of the music that gets played as the foretellers come back. The Master's theme itself seems to be a chaotic pattern of notes that reflects his unknowable character. Remember, the Master's ultimate plan is to defeat the 13 Darknesses, as we discovered in Union Cross. And so far, it seems that everything that's happened in the story in the Kingdom Hearts universe has been in pursuit of the Master's plan. So how do Sora and his friends and Xehanort fit into the puzzle? Are they ultimately part of the Master's plan too? Or are they wild cards he did not account for? Could the Master have predicted that Sora would abuse the power of waking to change the timeline and also be removed from the main Kingdom Hearts world? And if he did predict that, did he account on Sora appearing in Quadratum with him? Or is Sora part of his plan to get back to where he needs to be, or part of his overarching scheme? We're not 100% sure. But what we can be sure of is that this is the setup for the Lost Masters arc, the next major narrative that will begin in Kingdom Hearts 4. I mean, it's already kind of began. It's been happening in the background and it's been developing, but now it's taking center stage. So the question is, how do we get there? The last we see of Riku, the fairy godmother, thought she had an idea of how to find Sora. Kairi's been in stasis for a year while Ansem the Wise and his scientists have tried to see if the answer lies in her heart. The Wayfinder trio went into the realm of darkness looking for clues. How do we get from that point to Sora and Riku both being in this Tokyo-like city quadratum with Yozora and the Master? What are Lushu and the Foretellers going to do now that the Keyblade War is over? How did the Foretellers return? What is the Master's true intention / endgame? How does all of this connect to Final Fantasy Versus 13? That's the questions. That's the things we have now going forward into the story. The era of Xehanort is officially over, and the Lost Masters arc has now officially begun. To close out Kingdom Hearts 3, I will offer some of my final thoughts on a game that I've played through twice this year. I had conflicted feelings coming into, and as I'm writing this, even as I'm recording this, I'm still trying to figure out where my feelings truly lie with this game. And I feel like the following things that I've written down accurately reflect the way I feel about it. As I stated through this series, I think I've come to a conclusion that I feel comfortable with, despite coming into it with complicated feelings. And like I said, I did 2 playthroughs of it this year to get a better handle on what my true feelings were. In terms of the things you would expect from a Kingdom Hearts game, the combat, the Disney worlds and the Disney crossover, the heart and themes of its story, I do think that Kingdom Hearts 3 ultimately delivers in this regard. I still have a preference for the combat and gameplay of Kingdom Hearts 2, and I doubt that will ever change. But Kingdom Hearts 3's combat system has the most variety and is probably the most fun in the entire series. It's very clearly an amalgamation of all the experiments that Nomura and the team did with the handheld titles, and is ultimately the culmination of everything that has come before. A celebration of the series as it wraps up a near 20-year storyline, and this is evident in all of the mechanics from Keyblade transformations, combos, movement, magic, exploration, all that stuff. In terms of the Disney crossover that I gave a lot of shit to during the course of this series of episodes, I do have to give them their props. The Disney worlds are the best of the entire series. The level design is the best of the entire series. The way that the worlds and the levels utilize their Disney inspirations is truly, truly unmatched. There's so much detail and love put into them. They are truly the best they've ever been since all the way back in Kingdom Hearts 1. And even though I complained about how I felt the Disney stuff took up a little bit too much of the game, I can't deny that the stuff that was there was implemented incredibly well. While I may have tired of the Disney crossover by the end, caring about the Kingdom Hearts portion of the story more, the Disney crossover is Kingdom Hearts. You don't have Kingdom Hearts without Disney, and embracing the crossover is what makes these games what they are. This is an incredibly well-made game overall in every aspect. Level design, world implementation, graphics, gameplay, music. It is one of the best games as a package made in the last 5+ years. I've often said this as one of the things I'm defending Kingdom Hearts 3 on. I think it looks incredibly fantastic. I think Kingdom Hearts 3 and the Final Fantasy VII Remake series that have been put out over the last few years are some of the best looking things that have been done in video games over the past 5 years. I do, however, still have lingering issues with Kingdom Hearts 3. Things that I won't say that I hate, even though I felt like I used to hate them, but things that I wish had been done differently. I wish the Kingdom Hearts side of the story had more room to breathe. By the time you get past the Disney stuff, it's a dead sprint to the end, and there's very little time to stop and breathe. Like I said in an earlier episode, Sora gets one scene with Ventus, not even a dedicated scene with him. Aqua's there too. One scene with Ventus, a character whose heart he has carried inside of him since he was a child for the entirety of the series, whether we knew it or not. There is no discussion about that, no meaningful interaction between these characters beyond when Sora is rescuing him and brief moments during their fights. Sora barely talks to Aqua, to Terra, to Roxas, to Xion, all of these characters that are connected to him. I wanted something more that allowed Sora to spend meaningful time in cutscenes and maybe even gameplay with these characters. By the time the story is over and they would have a chance to interact, he's gone. In my Kingdom Hearts journey, I have grown to love all these characters, not just Sora. They've all impacted me in different ways. They all have such amazing arcs and personalities that I feel a bit robbed that they all didn't get more time to shine in Kingdom Hearts 3. I know why that is. My gut tells me why. It's because Kingdom Hearts 3 is a numbered game, and the numbered games are solely Sora's. They focus on him. And this game was a really big focus on Sora. It was his journey to remind himself that he has continually had the strength of heart all along, even when he's forgotten, even when he doesn't remember, even when he feels like it's left him. The strength that he truly wields is the strength of his friendships, the strength of his heart, and the strength of his bonds. And it was very much Sora's journey to rediscover those truths after he failed the Mark of Mastery exam in Dream Drop Distance. So the story focuses on him. I just wanted more of it. For a game built on the theme of connections and friendship, I wanted to see more of it. For a game built on the themes of all these people are connected to Sora, and that's what makes him special, is the connections he has with these people, I wanted to see the payoff of all those connections, not just quick scenes and a handful of words here or there. I wanted it to be more meaningful. My 2 playthroughs of this game did not alleviate any of those feelings. I still wish the characters had more time. I wish the emotional moments had time to breathe. But I will say my overall opinion of the game has changed and shifted more towards the positive. Just because this one specific aspect of the game was not what I wanted it to be, doesn't mean I'm letting it define my entire opinion of the game anymore. I had some resentment towards this game because of the perceived story slights, and yes, I still hold on to some of those resentments, but the rest of the game I really enjoyed. The other Kingdom Hearts parts of the game function incredibly well. Top-notch combat, incredible utilizations of the Disney worlds, reinforcing themes and ideals of Kingdom Hearts narrative, and bringing a hype ending to this arc of storytelling. While it doesn't stick the landing narratively the way I want it to, it's a celebration of the last 20-ish years of Kingdom Hearts, and it highlights all the best parts of it. It is a fantastic game, and I think it stands tall alongside Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 as one of the core numbered titles, a fantastic representation of everything this series stands for. At this point, I'm confident in saying my love for the things that this game does well overshadows the things that bothered me about it, and has kind of reinforced my point of view in talking about and analyzing video games as a whole. Sometimes games don't do everything well. No game does everything perfectly. I'd be willing to bet that there's things you can nitpick about any single game that's ever been made in all of existence because they're just not perfect, and art is not perfect. But I'm past the point of letting a few minor imperfections ruin the perception of a game for me. Just because a game stumbles doesn't mean it's a failure. And I think in our society today, especially today, there's not much room for that sort of compromise. A game either has to be a smash industry-defining hit or a critical failure to be lambasted. It's almost worse if your game is mid, quote unquote, if it's caught in the middle, if it's wholly unremarkable and not discussed at all. Kingdom Hearts 3 isn't perfect. It has flaws born from long development times, corporate interference, and bloated storytelling. But to tell the story of Kingdom Hearts is to discuss flaws. I love each and every one of these games in the series in its own way, and I would never tell you that any of these games are perfect or exempt from criticism because of what it is. That's what it is, flaws and all. It is the most unique experience in all of video games, and that is the story of Kingdom Hearts. A story of friendship, connections, the strength of bonds, and hope in the good things that exist in this world, combined with the flaws of some of its execution. Kingdom Hearts is about all of that. It's about connections and bonds and flaws. It's not pretty at times. It's cringy at times. Some of the entries are not as good as the others, but they all contribute to this incredible experience that I don't think you can find anywhere else in this industry. It's kind of surreal. We've reached the end of Kingdom Hearts 3. This will be the last episode on it. And I'm struggling to close it out. So, what is next for Kingdom Hearts and for Guiding Keys? We've got a few more entries to go before we're wrapped up, at least for the time being. Part 2 of Union Cross will be coming up. Things that happened post-Keyblade War, and we'll find out what ultimately happened to the new leaders of the Unions and our player character, along with the Dandelions. Kingdom Hearts Dark Road is coming up, and that is the story of Xehanort's youth. That will be exciting because I have no experience with that game whatsoever. I wonder what truths will be revealed to us about young Xehanort and his training to be a Keyblade Master. Finally, Guiding Keys will conclude with Kingdom Hearts Melody of Memory, another game I have not played before that has implications for Kingdom Hearts 4. And at least for the time being, that will be it. That'll be the end of it. Until Kingdom Hearts 4 comes out, until Kingdom Hearts Missing Link comes out, the story of Kingdom Hearts will have been told by myself in its entirety until those entries are released to us. The end is in sight. What an incredible journey it's been so far. Even though we aren't there yet, the completion of Kingdom Hearts 3 feels significant. It's the most recent major game in the series, and Guiding Keys has been a journey to get to this point over the last 2 years. And now that we're here, we only have 3 episodes to go. I'd like to thank you guys so much for listening. I know that I kept expanding the number of episodes on Kingdom Hearts 3 that you had to listen to, but I really wanted this to be as comprehensive as I possibly could make it. If I was going to bother putting in this much time, I wanted it to be as full, as complete, as comprehensive as I think it could possibly be. So thank you guys so much for supporting Guiding Keys, supporting the Unlockables. It's been surreal almost that we're done with Kingdom Hearts 3. If you want to check out any of the other Kingdom Hearts episodes or check out the Unlockables podcast, you can go to linktr.ee/Unlockables podcast. Podcatchers are in there. All the social media are in there. I need to update it because I've began the transition of moving off of X to Blue Sky permanently, just because I can no longer tolerate the awful cesspool of toxicity that X has slowly been sinking into ever since a certain unnamed billionaire has taken it over. So I'll add that one as well if you want to talk to me that way. I'm over on Blue Sky, which seems to be having its moment, or at least seems that a lot more people are signing up for it, and the interactions on there I've had on there are much more positive. So check out all that stuff. Follow the show on Instagram. Subscribe on your podcatcher of choice. Rate and review the show. That really helps me out. I really do appreciate it when you engage with the show, rate it. It really means a lot to me. But let's close the book on Kingdom Hearts 3. Remember, it's not just a story of video games, it's a story of you, and may your heart be your guiding key.